Hello, everybody. This is Matt Heisey, owner of the College Funding Connection, and back today with another cost review. And today we'll be looking at Boston University. We've been doing a series of videos on various colleges and universities, but we believe it's important for families to kind of get a preview of financial aid estimates at particular schools before you get too far down the path of committing to attend a particular college or university. And it should be used as a tool to help you plan properly prior to applying for financial aid. So today we'll be looking at Boston U. If you haven't had contact with us in the past, here is our information on the bottom of the screen. We are headquartered in Brunswick, Ohio, but we actually work with families all across the United States. And our website is collegefc.com. Now, before we get into details about Boston University specifically, I want to make sure you understand the basic information, the foundation for effective planning that is used by the various colleges out there. So the one important piece to understand is your expected family contribution, and the EFC is just a portion of your income and assets that you'll be expected to contribute towards the costs of college. And then how is your EFC determined? Well, it's be determined by completing one or more financial aid applications. So the one that pretty much everybody has to fill out is the Fafsa. That's the free application for federal student aid. Some private colleges and universities, there's about 275 that use a secondary application called CSS Profile and Registration. Then there's a smaller group of private colleges that complete what's called the consensus. It's not necessarily a separate application that you have to fill out, but it is a separate evaluation that those colleges will use to determine how much financial aid you are eligible for. But in any case, they're typically looking at the base year, which is that tax year preceding the year that you're applying for financial aid. And in most cases, if you were just getting into this for the first time, you, as a high school student, it starts in your junior year of high school, January of your junior year, through December of your senior year. So that's the full tax year before you would apply for financial aid in January and February for the next your first freshman year in college. So the financial need number is really what the colleges are trying to determine, and that's determined by taking the cost of attendance, or let's call it the retail price in the college, subtracting out your EFC, and that equals then the financial need, and that's what the colleges will be using to determine how much financial aid you would be eligible for, or your student in your home would be eligible for in college. So let's take a look at some more specific numbers for Boston U. So to look at Boston U, we're going to be using a program called Smart Search, and this just is basically a fancy calculator that we use. It's available to industry professionals that do the kind of work that we do. So that, just so you know, it's not something you'll be able to Google and run yourself. But it does take the information that's provided by the college or university. We cross-reference it with the EFC, or the family's financial information, and it gives us a really pretty accurate idea of how much aid you might be eligible for at a particular college. So today we're going to be looking at just a sample case, the sample family, and Joey's sample is the high school student that's looking at these colleges and looking at financial aid. So the first thing we have to look at are the academics, or the academic information for Joey specifically, because we do know that that'll impact or have an effect on what kinds of colleges he can realistically look at and consider enrollment for. And then also it gives us an idea of other types of financial aid that might be available based on merit. So for Joey, we're going to be looking here at his grade point average. He had about a 4.0. There are a couple tests that Joey can take. He took both, but we're just going to use the ACT score. He scored a 29, which is pretty good. And then some schools may even look at class rank. So he's ranked in the top 10% of his class. So we have kind of pre-filled all of these different categories to save a little bit of time today. So next, they're going to look at Joey's family information. So does he have how many parents in the home, and what is the age of the oldest parent? We live in Ohio, so we're just going to use Ohio for now, but we can include any state in the country. Any type of ethnic background that they would consider: Hispanic, Native American, African American. In this case, no. And then how many kids are in the family and how many are going to college. So Joey's an only child, so we're just going to list one for now. But if you have more than one child and you're a parent and especially if you have more than one child that is in college or going into college, you'd certainly want to track that and record that information on the applications. That can make a big, big difference in how much financial aid you're eligible for. Now, the next section deals with parents' financial information. Now, this is probably the most common question I get, and the hardest thing for a lot of parents to get past is that they don't want to provide their financial information on their child's financial aid application. I can tell you there are very, very few exceptions where you'll get away without having to do that. You are pretty much tied to your child is tied to you when it comes time to apply for financial aid for undergraduate years, so their bachelor degree years in college, the first 4 years typically. So during that time, you will, as a parent, have to list your information as well as your students. So in this case, Joey's parents, he has two parents, they're filing jointly. They only make about $100,000, a pretty typical amount of money nowadays if you have two parents working in the home. A couple other items of information here. So the parents have some assets, and we're just going to list $200,000 for now. And a little bit of a backstory here. Mrs. Sample's dad passed away, so Grandpa Sample passed away, and left his daughter about $200,000. Right now, they just have sitting in a bank account because they don't really know what to do with it because Joey's getting ready to go to college. Now, there's some home equity there as well, and some colleges may look at that. So they've paid their mortgage down, and there's about $50,000 in net equity in their primary residence. And then they're contributing to a 401k account, so we're listing that information here as well. There may be some other information that you have to include if you're self-employed and other things too, but today that's all we're going to list. Now for Joey then, Grandpa also left Joey some money, so we're going to include that here, about $20,000 he left to Joey through his estate and to help pay for college. So right now, just like his parents, it's just kind of sitting in a savings account because they know they're going to need to spend it for college here in the next 4 years. So that's just kind of where they parked it, and they don't want to lose it, so they don't want to put it in the stock market or anything risky. Then Mom and Dad also set up a 529 plan, so we have that listed here, about $20,000. So we're going to save that. So we're going to go then to one other section is the affordability section. Now, in some cases, if we're working with families and they don't know specifically which college they're looking for, we can actually set some parameters to identify colleges based on their financial requirements that are affordable for them based on what we know the colleges are likely to provide in the way of need-based financial aid, and even in some cases even merit scholarships based on Joey's academics. So a really quick way to kind of pre-screen colleges that are relevant choices for Joey based on his grades and based on their finances. Today we're just going to kind of skip ahead to certain colleges. Now we can search for any college that we want to. You can see here, you can search by state. We have a lot of schools listed for Ohio. We're going to go right to Boston University by just typing it in, which I've already done here, and take a look at those numbers. So when we save this, then it's going to take us right over to the college report. We see Boston University here, and if I click on BU, you'll see it'll take us right to the Boston University website. Any day now, there it is. So it pulls up the site just so you can see that we really are looking at that university's information. So for BU then, we'll look across the columns here and I'll explain each one. So as far as admissibility, it's telling us based on Joey's academics that it's likely he would get into Boston U. So it is a good choice for him. As far as the EFC method, they do use the CSS profile. It's also called the institutional method, but they aren't using profiles, so we know that in advance. And that can help us in planning. We know, there's certain things we can do to plan properly if we know in advance that the college is going to be using that set of numbers. The cost of the college is about $58,000, so it's on the higher side in terms of the retail price. Right now, then, the EFC number based on Joey's parents' finances and his finances is about $34,000. So the school costs $58,000, their EFC is $34,000. So if you remember that calculation we looked at before, we've identified financial need of about $24,000 per year. And then we do know that Boston University covers on average about 90% of that need. So the actual aid that they would provide would be about $23,781. And then the net cost to Joey and his parents would be about $34,482. So, college isn't free, even though he's getting a lot of financial aid here. The family still has to come up with about $34,482. Now, I can tell you, without even rerunning the numbers, that this number is much higher than it needs to be. I think we can lower this number significantly for Joey and his parents. So we're going to go right back to the financial section. And if you remember, we had a few items that we included here. And one item that I knew in advance was going to stick out like a red flag to the colleges is this money that Mrs. Sample received from her dad. They didn't know what to do with it. They wanted to provide some of it for college, but they still wanted some of it kind of earmarked or reserved for retirement. They have some idea to open up a memorial fund for their dad too, so they were probably going to use some money for that. So it's not all really meant to go to college, but the colleges don't look at it that way. They look at it as cash in a bank account, and before they ante up too much financial aid, they're going to expect Mr. and Mrs. Sample to spend as much of that $200,000 as possible. So one thing we can do is reposition this money. We're certainly not going to spend $200,000, but let's say we put it in a category that the colleges are no longer looking at, and we turned it into a $20,000 account rather than a $200,000 account. So let's see what kind of impact that has on aid. We're going to save that. Then I'm also going to go look at Joey's accounts. And remember that Grandpa left him $20,000. Now I can tell you of everything we've looked at, this will get assessed at the highest percentage. About 20% of that asset will get gobbled up by college expenses if we don't change it. So we're going to reposition this. We're going to actually put it somewhere where they can't look at it, turn this into a zero number, and then we're also going to save that information. Now let's go back and look at the college report for Boston University. And same information up here that we were looking at, but let's go all the way to the last column here for net cost. And if you remember, I asked you to remember that number. They were previously asking for Joey and his parents to come up with $34,000 out of pocket, quite literally writing a check for that amount to the college or using private financing. And now we've lowered that all the way down to $22,000. So that's more than that's almost a $12,000 savings per year. So over 4 years, if we can reduce their out-of-pocket expense, we just saved Mr. and Mrs. Sample about $48,000 in cash over 4 years, just by doing some very basic and relatively easy planning, but working with a college funding advisor that understands how to reposition those assets properly. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what's possible. Now, you may not have $200,000 in a bank account. Maybe you have 50, or maybe you have 100, or who knows what, and maybe your income is a little higher or lower than 100,000. We don't want to get caught up in details because in most cases, if you fall within certain parameters, we know that for many families, you can make some adjustments to your finances and at the very least come up with a tax-efficient, cost-effective way to pay for college, even if you have to still come up with this $22,000 like Mr. or Mrs. Sample and Joey do. So I'm going to finish up here and bounce back to our PowerPoint presentation and give you some more information. So I wanted to share with you some next steps and how we might be able to provide some more information for your family. For anybody that participates in our video series or education series, we do a series of seminars and workshops also. We do provide a free 1-hour consultation. Now, let me explain why we do it this way. We want to make sure people have some understanding or a foundation of knowledge before they come to meet with us, because otherwise we're spending an hour basically going through the basics with them and kind of educating them, and then a 1-hour meeting turns into a 2 or 3 hour meeting. So we do want people to go and participate in one of our videos or something before they actually come to us, so they have some base knowledge or information before we sit down or talk over the phone about how we might be able to answer some questions for your family. If you do want to take advantage of this, we do meet with people by appointment just so we can accommodate the number of people calling in. Here is our contact screen. If you want to go to the website, it's collegefc.com/contact us, or if you just go to collegefc.com, you'll see a tab at the top that says Contact Us. Just click on that, fill in your information. We'll get back to you just to schedule a time to meet. We might be able to answer a few questions over the phone at that time as well. and then hopefully get something on the calendar so that we can answer any questions or address any needs that you have. Now, when you sign up for a free consultation, you'll also receive a copy of our free monthly newsletter. And then we also have a free student resource called the Student Roadmap to Success, which is basically, like it says, a roadmap. It's a step-by-step instruction manual for college-bound high school students, sophomores, juniors, and seniors that really takes some of the mystery out of the planning process and gives them an idea and it's kind of based in time. So what should they be working on at any point in time as they're going through that process. So that's available to you too, again, for free, just by signing up for the consultation with us. So again, thanks for watching today. If you want to contact us by phone, I didn't have that there. It's on our website, but our phone number is 866-305-2321. Again, that's 866-305-2321, toll-free number, or contact us on the website. We don't know if we can help your family, but we certainly are going to try. We can answer some questions. If we see that there's anything we can do beyond that as a professional service, we'll let you know, but we never know for sure until we actually talk with you the first time. So I hope you get in touch with us. Thanks again for watching today, and stay tuned for additional videos that we have coming out.